Доброго дня всім.
Good afternoon, everyone. Greetings to our guests who joined us here in the press center of UCMC, those who watch us online. We have audience like this. I'm Viktoriia Zabiian. I work in UCMC. I coordinate the work of our press center. And I'm glad to greet you all here today. So we greet our speakers. I would like to make a small introduction to our discussion. As you know, pandemic of COVID-19 hit all spheres of life in nearly every country. This month, we have a year of pandemic, of new conditions, and we should get accustomed to it in order to continue with our lives. It is not possible just to wait. We should live in the new conditions. And the biggest challenges are in the sphere of education, especially in Ukraine. Many schools were not ready. We lacked technical and material assistance, and we didn't have high-speed internet in order to provide quality education to children. And the level of digital literacy of teachers and children and parents, it was not satisfactory. Everyone agrees on this. But something important was done by the state experts, parents, and schools, and everyone tried to get accustomed to the new conditions of work. And we have Ukrainian experts here today, and they will tell us what was done during this year and how the system changed in Ukraine. And also we will be joined by Estonia expert. And this is the leading country concerning digitalization in Europe. And they digitalized the sphere of education in 2008, and they launched online platform E-kool. Starting 2000, a lot of attention was paid to digital education of teachers and students, and our expert will tell us more about it. So the topic of our discussion is the year online and how the system of schools face the challenges and experience of Ukraine and Estonia. We have our guests here and online. So the majority of discussions are done through Zoom, and we are really glad to have here people in our studio. We have Yuriy, Kononenko, head of Chief Department of General and Preschool Education of the Ministry of Education, Yuriy Rybachuk, Deputy Director of Ukrainian Institute for Development of Education. Online, we will be joined soon by Georgy Lagvilava, Administrator of the system E-kool of 53rd General School in Tallinn. And we are going to start. First, I will voice questions that we have to our Ukrainian experts in order to start our discussion with the situation we live in now and with our Ukrainian experience. I would like to ask our guests about the results of the year. How do you assess the work that was done in the digitalization in education? What problems teachers, students, and parents had and how they were resolved, and also to speak in more detail about all Ukrainian online school. The first, Yuriy Kononenko is going to take the floor. So you are given the floor, and then Yuriy Rybachuk will continue. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, dear colleagues and dear journalists from Cherkasy. It is a pleasure to see you all here. For Ukrainian education, this was a big challenge. You've said it correctly. Speaking honestly, it was not ready for this situation. From the very start, I would like to say that we have 14,800 schools, and only 270 too had some experience how to organize distance learning. The majority of schools, these were private institutions. Also, we have communal and state institutions that were ready. At the start of spring 2020, these events connected with the quarantine and the tough limitations for many teachers, students, and parents, this was a shock because we didn't have such experience. Going forward about current situation, unfortunately, in Ukraine, we believe that when there is no happiness, unhappiness helps us. On the whole, we may say that during this time, and I will tell you more about it, how it was done, but on the whole, I would like to say that this experience was accumulated, and in spring 2021, we face different situation, not like we had it in 2020. Overall mobilization happened, and we reinforced our material base. A lot was done by teachers and other staff. Some work was done with parents, and now, despite all the problems, and I'm going to speak about this later, we are now in much better situation when we had it at the start of the pandemic. I would like to start by saying that we were able to overcome the crisis quickly because in 2019, you understand that this material base in the schools, the founders, the local self-government bodies are responsible for schools. They should provide for financing and other resources in order that schools be able to work. And there are subsidies for salaries, and it is paid by the state, by the budget. This money goes through through local government, but it is paid from the state budget. And during several years, the government of Ukraine, taking into account the reform of the schools, and the legislation was updated, and reforming education is an important issue. And there are some funds to help self-government bodies at the local level. So we were lucky because in 2019, for the measures to provide quality of education, about 1.5 billion of hryvnias were allocated, 700 million for connection to high-speed internet, and 300 million hryvnias for computers that should have been used in the schools. So this coincided in time, and it really helped in organization of mixed or online learning in the period that happened after quarantine was announced. This money was used by the local self-government bodies. This money went from the budget, and they added their own money, so this was co-financing. The ministry practically in spring and in part of summer, they improved normative base concerning organization of online learning. We had normative documents, we had proper legislation and bylaws. And when this problem happened, we understood that we had to make some changes to correspond the situation. And on the 8th of September 2020, a provision was approved concerning secondary education, and it was made into a full-fledged normative and legislative act supported by the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Justice, and it may be used by teachers and other educators in course of these quarantine measures or measures connected with the emergency situations. This provision also envisages that in the course of organization of distance learning, interests of students should be taken into account, and organization of educational process should provide for interaction on a regular basis between students and teachers, and also individual curricula is taken into account for children with special needs. We get a lot of letters. We have different families. My colleagues in the hall, they understand it clearly, especially this is about rural areas, because some families do not have computers or tablets. And there are multiple children families, and they have only one computer, one device. And they say that they really want to study, but they have multiple children, and they do not have an opportunity, a possibility to provide it for all the children in their family. So this provision envisages that the teacher use all measures of communication with children through email, for example, through messengers, even by phone. Moving forward, I would like to say that from one side, everything depends on the teacher. If teacher is really good and he cares about children and wants to provide knowledge to children, organizing the process, he will do all this, and we should speak about it. There are teachers who really are active from the start of the quarantine. They made everything possible to provide tasks to children, to assess them properly, to establish proper communication with the kids. And there are other teachers who use these opportunities, let's say, in order to relax, because they didn't have to go to schools and they didn't do anything. So at the start, we have seen the situation like this, and we had to improve this situation, especially in psychological realm. And the ministry sent some letters. We do not have many instruments except to provide normative base, but we provided some recommendations by letters. And these recommendations were implemented. In spring 2020, the significant element of support for such families I've mentioned, especially in the rural areas, this was Ukrainian school online that was televised. It was supported by the Office of the President of Ukraine, and independent commercial channels also supported it, if you remember all this. The classes were distributed among the channels, and they televised these lessons. And they used Soviet experience. There was special educational channel to broadcast lessons. And at that time, this was a big support, especially for children who didn't have access to computers in rural areas. And it was good. Of course, Yuriy will tell you more about it, how it is implemented now. We had a problem. Children were not able to turn on TV. They had to turn it only when the lesson was broadcast. But this was really important, and all main subjects from 5th to 11th grade were covered. Our Institute of Postgraduate Education, including Cherkasy Institute, that is one of the leading ones, and these are powerful institutions. They directed their efforts to improve quality of teaching, and they started to provide courses on online training to improve qualification of teachers after the quarantine was announced. And when they get, for example, some lessons on methodology, they paid attention to what may be done concerning organization and the use of online teaching. Next, right at once, I may say that now, out of these 14,843 schools do not have connections to internet. In Cherkasy Oblast, they do not have this. In Zakarpattia, 31, Lviv and Khmelnytskyi 5, and Zaporizhzhia Oblast and Poltavska Oblast. They also do not have this connection. In Zakarpattia, why the number is so big? Because this is a mountainous region, and settlements do not have any internet. So the schools, they don't have the internet. The majority of these institutions, they should be optimized, or they have less than 20 students. It doesn't mean that they should not have this access to internet, but when funds were allocated, one of the conditions was that these educational institutions won't be closed or liquidated, and there should be not less than 20 children in the institution. So these were conditions for the use of the state subsidy. Except these 43 institutions, we have others. We are guided by the state statistics, and it says that all other 14,800 have this connection, but the quality of connection is different. And the Ministry of Digitalization, they have different instruments for measurement. They say that about 2,600 schools, they have internet connection with less than 3 megabits. So it is not possible to provide proper education online. So there is a huge field for the work in order to connect all those institutions that are not connected and to use high-speed internet. Before the start of 2020-2021 academic year, together with our partners, including Studio of Online Education at DERA, and supported by Switzerland Confederation, there was such a project on decentralization to develop democratic education. A special course was developed for online education for teachers. Any teacher may join this platform and to undergo this course in order to update his skills and to improve knowledge on organization of online education. And more than 50,000 teachers underwent the course and got proper certificates. This is an additional thing that was done, and the Institute of centers also contributed, and the Postgraduate Study Institute also contributed to this education of teachers. Also, it should be noted that in the budget for 2021, for the measures connected to fight against COVID-19, concerning education, more than 1 billion hryvnias is allocated for this fight against the virus, and this money will be used. And this is a breakthrough for Ukraine that will be used for providing computers to teachers. Computers will be bought for teachers, notebooks will be bought for teachers. They will be able to use them both in school and at home for educational purposes. Also based on memorandum with Microsoft Ukraine and Google Ukraine, we have special international projects that allow to use some resources. For example, with Microsoft. Microsoft allowed two pedagogical workers in order to organize online lessons to use Microsoft Teams for education for free. Google, GCU for education, they have Google Class. There is a platform. You may create a virtual class to add students, to provide tasks. So these are the instruments that may be used. This memorandum is with the ministry, so you may use it for free. What else should I say concerning this? At the start, you said it clearly concerning digital competence of teachers and students. We have some normative documents concerning teachers. They didn't envisage such competences. In 2020, professional standards were prepared, and at the start of the 2021, they were approved concerning training for teachers. And in the standard, it is mentioned what digital competences the teacher should have in order to have opportunity to organize online learning process or mixed learning process. Also, we continue to cooperate with the other state structures and NGOs. You may know that together with the ministry and the Ministry of Digitalization, a platform was introduced, the DIA digital platform, and there is a special materials for teachers, and in cooperation with Smart Education NGO, the ministry developed guidelines for education online, how to organize the process. So the central instrument that helps everyone is Ukrainian School Online in the new format, and Yuriy will tell us more about it. Before giving the floor to Yuriy Rybachuk, I would like to ask you, We understand that there is responsibility of stakeholders in education. Schools should provide quality education. From one side, we have a question of well-being of our citizens and the opportunity to have several computers or tablets in the family. And this is not the responsibility of Ministry of Education, but we would like to ask you, do you have some examples? Because you said that teachers do everything possible to resolve this question, to provide quality of education. Do you have an example how to overcome such a situation, a real example? And I would like to remind to the audience that at the end we will give you opportunity to ask questions. So we will go into detail for journalists. The society is responsible for quality of education. So the participants, the stakeholders of the process, they cannot have all the responsibility, but because the system of education of Ukraine is comprehensive and everyone is responsible. At the start, I've said that we didn't have massive experience. Well, we had some experience. And I will give you an example. The ministry itself, it doesn't guide the school. It only manages 3 schools, 3 secondary schools. One is International Ukrainian School that was created in 2007 to help children who are citizens of Ukraine who permanently or temporarily live abroad. After events 2014, the activity of the school was also spread to the Autonomous Republic of Crimea and Sevastopol city. And before quarantine, these schools used these elements. They really contributed. They had individual approach. It is difficult to provide education in, for example, Spain, Italy, Portugal, to our kids because some children do not know Ukrainian language or they know very little of it. And parents, they want children to know Ukrainian language and they want them to get documents on Ukrainian education. And another example, in Donetsk Oblast, Donetsk Institute of Postgraduate Education, and after events that happened in 2014, they paid a lot of attention to children from the occupied territories. They had positive experience. And children from the occupied territories, we understand there is quarantine and they had only some time to establish connection, and in the Donetsk Oblast, big experience was accumulated concerning online education. Teachers, they really tried to establish proper approach to preserve these children in Ukrainian system of education. Yuriy, please tell us about all Ukrainian online school, what you've managed to do during this year, and what plans for the future you have. And previously, did we have such an experience? Maybe some children were studying online, or is it a fresh online school and a fresh online project? I would like to thank Viktoriia and Yuriy, and I hope that this information will be valuable for our audience, for our journalists. I would like to go into detail about the Ukrainian school online project. A year ago, we experienced a huge stress. Children lost their contacts with schools and kindergartens due to the quarantine, and we had to provide a response to this situation and to create such an online product that would be of quality, and from the other side, it should be accessible for the broader audience. Ukrainian School Online first was televised. This was reactive response to the situation. And I would like to start with the information about this experience in televised format. It is really interesting. First, it was found out that the need for such a resource, like I've said, there is a big need in society for this. Lessons were televised. Also, they were broadcast through YouTube channel of the Ministry of Education on the 6th of April 2020. This project was started, and in one day, YouTube channel of the ministry got 50,000 subscribers. So these videos on YouTube, they got 3.5 million views. So this product was really needed. And also television audience was big. Commercial channels broadcasted it, and some channels even competed to broadcast such videos. These lessons were broadcast in M1 channel, for example, and this is a music channel, actually. So the attention was really big. One more fact. There was big interest, not only from children, but also from adults. You may see some statistics here. If we are speaking about English language, this was one of the most popular among TV lessons. Now they are also popular. So these videos were watched by people from 18 to 54. So some children joined through the accounts of their parents, but if we look at Ukrainian language, for example, about clauses in Ukrainian language, so the majority were children from 13 to 17 years. One more interesting phenomenon. Physical culture was really popular. During the first, second, and third day, it was one of the 3 top videos on YouTube channel, and 1.5 million viewers. Even they were provided to TikTok. About 10 million people watched this Rukhanka, or physical culture lessons on quarantine. They comment the stars that participated in the creation of these videos, and they proposed their own videos as well. Also, interesting experience that we had in spring. More than 50% of viewers watched YouTube lessons through smartphones. On only 37% they watch them on their computers. And this is really important facts that demonstrate what gadgets are used by our children and what gadgets are available in households. And it ruined the myth that smartphone school is impossible. After the first season of All Ukrainian School Online that was televised, we got some comments. The Ministry and the Service of Quality of Education, we got comments from teachers, from parents, whether they are satisfied with the product like this. At camp participants, these are the non-conference for professional growth of school teachers. 50% they said that this was an adequate decision in conditions that we had 35 said that this is a wonderful project that should be continued, and 14% said that the idea is good, but implementation could have been better. From the other side, State Service of Quality of Education carried out 7 monitorings throughout the year concerning quality of online learning. The response from the parents and teachers and the principals of the schools, it was rather negative because they wanted to return their children to school as quickly as possible. But 65% of students said that they really like to study online, and 1/3 wanted to continue education online. So there is a need to create an online resource for mixed and distance learning for secondary and high school with quality materials. This is really important, and on the 11th of December last year, All Ukrainian School Online platform was launched in the new format. Some of the experience of a televised version was preserved, but this is an online platform for online and mixed format. It was supported by the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine. And the state institution that I represent, Ukrainian Institute for Development of Education, ordered this project, and we have also the NGO that implement this project. They have big experience in creating of such projects. So we have lessons, tests, and materials for 18 main subjects. So Ukrainian language, literature, mathematics, algebra, art, law, and other subjects. All these lessons, they are united in the courses. So we have micro learning. What it means? Each lesson consists of a small video, up to 7 years, video lecture, then small, concise tasks for self-check. So you may see classes, you may get registered, and you may get access to classes. And you will have lessons on the subjects there. So this is how it looks. A short video. Near it you may see text for special needs, children with special needs. a small, concise text on the lesson, the task, the tests, small tests that you may pass, and at the end you may see your progress, what you've reached, what lessons you passed, and what tasks you were able to make. Why this format is good? You may work individually. Not only children may do this. I also had some lessons on geography, on law, and I passed this test. You may see it on the screen. And the teachers may use such lessons in mixed learning. You may use such a technology. It is called flipped classroom. So this is convenient to work online. Then you study some lessons, and then you may discuss and to have interactive work. Also, this program contains some methodology for teachers where there are explanations how to work with materials. There are some recommendations how to use these lessons in practical work of the teacher. Now about the results. Starting 11 December 2020 till now, and it continues to be filled with courses and lessons. Now on the site, we have 73 courses, more than 1,000 online lessons on 11 subjects for students from 5th till 12th grade. More than 85 teachers participated throughout the country. And also there is a team, 43 methodological workers to provide quality. And also there are literary editors who work with ready-made lessons that are prepared by teachers. And the Ukrainian Institute for Development of Education also provide work and coordination of activities of pool of experts, 56 people. After the lesson is ready, they review it in order to prevent some problems. We had less of them now than we had them in spring. Experts check whether the lesson corresponds methodology, whether design is proper, and they carry out an anti-discriminatory check. About 140,000 users got registered on the platform, and the number of viewers reached several millions. And geography is rather broad. Those who use this platform are from 100 countries, including US, Canada, Netherlands, Great Britain, Poland, and Germany, and other countries. Also, I've mentioned this assessment by Service of Quality in Education. Based on their monitoring, they say that all Ukrainian school online is greatly implemented in the rural areas, especially where there are no teachers on some subjects, because sometimes sometimes teachers in the rural areas have to teach several subjects. So our plans in 2021, we will continue to place new lessons on the platform. We plan to create and place 3,500 lessons. In this way, we will cover topics and calendar of the whole academic year for grade 5 to grade 11. We plan to broaden the number of courses. Now we have traditional school subjects, but we have interest from interested organizations to place on this platform other courses, for example, leadership course, or to broaden foreign languages, for example, not only English, but also German, French, Spanish, or to develop courses on Crimean Tatar language. Starting 2022, we plan to cover also junior school by this project, because we were asked why we have it for secondary school and we do not have it for junior school. The answer is simple. This resource should take into account the age of student. Junior students, for them it is difficult to focus without proper support of the teacher. But we hope that we will work on this and we will be able to provide lessons for audience like this, to provide accessible lessons for such students. Also, I would like to remind one more important aspect that we didn't have in the televised format and that we have now. This is the use of universal design for development of components of the lessons, to broaden audience and accessibility of the materials that are placed on the platform for children with special educational needs. And we are supported by UNICEF in Ukraine. Due to them, we have consultants concerning inclusive education, and we held webinars, developed recommendations for teachers, and supported by UNICEF. Also, we will have additional options for our courses and lessons. And also, we will have video, and we will have also support for people who need special education. So I've mentioned smartphone at the beginning, so this work is ongoing in order to develop mobile application for iOS and Android. It is important to mention that this year we plan to broaden functionality of the platform, not only to have lessons, but to make it useful and comfortable for the daily use by teachers. We plan to open special cabinet for a teacher. A teacher may get registered, and the teacher will be able to form the class, to see activity of the students, to carry out assessment, and to form reports that are necessary. Also, we work on development of instruments of assessment. This is really important. Now the platform provides opportunity to follow the process of the achievements. Also, we would like to introduce elements of assessment and some summary assessment for the topics. All Ukrainian school online should become a comprehensive platform, single point of entry for teachers and students for the whole spectrum of materials. An issue was raised whether it is something new or we had it before. Of course, resources for online education. They are many, they are different, they are of different quality. Some of them are for free, others are paid services, and we believe that Ukrainian School Online should be a hub where we could gather the best online products that were created for the state money and with participation of foreign technical assistance. Maybe some proposals will come from commercial organizations if they want to provide them for free, because this is a free platform and access is for free. So this is what I wanted to tell you about our platform. And you may get an access, and you may undergo a course you like to pass tests and to see that this is accessible to learn online, and this is really useful for everyone. Thank you very much. I have several questions, but I will ask them at the end. And now we have our Estonian counterpart, our colleague. Please put the picture on the screen. I would like to say that we should use all possible resources for training. It is really important. I also watch TikTok, and in the course of the quarantine, there were many videos from Ukrainian School Online, and the children, they really communicated among themselves through TikTok, and many people have bias against TikTok, and this is underestimated resource. Good afternoon, Georgy. Do you hear us? Will it be comfortable if I speak Russian with you? Without any problems. So my language is Russian, actually. Thank you very much for joining us today. We would like you to ask about your experience of digitalization in Estonia and to tell us about E-kool. Maybe you heard the presentations of our speakers. Maybe you will be able to highlight some commonalities with the Ukrainian system of online education, and also to tell us about the differences of our systems. The floor is given to you. Good afternoon once again. Do you see my presentation on the screen? Yes, we see it. Super. I heard the previous speakers that spoke before me. I would like to say that we face the similar problems in the course of this online education in Ukraine and in our country. Maybe the biggest difference is that what Ukraine does now and open such platforms, and it is trying to provide laptops for teachers and to provide internet to schools in Estonia. It has been done for 15 or even 20 years. So maybe we were not ready 100%, but we had some base in order to calmly accept this strike of a pandemic and to cut corners. So I would like to tell you more detail about this. I will start with my experience. I work in a school in Tallinn, and I am system administrator, but maybe I should say that my responsibilities are broader than this, actually. Now I will tell you about my presentation about IT sector and education. Everything started in 1996. The first project was Yuriy. This was the project to provide modern internet to all the schools, and also to replace all computers inside the school, or to set these computers. This will be more correct. Also to open the rooms for computer sciences. This happened in 1996. It was supported by the United States. and big American firms like Microsoft, IBM. And the project grew, and in 2013, the fund was established. This fund it is provided for by the state and big companies in IT sector. In 2020, this fund was transformed into the Department of Education and Youth. It was supported by the ministry, but now it is a separate department. It is an official institution, and it guides all the work in the sector. I will send a presentation to you, and you will be able to go in more detail in concerning this, and you may find this information even in Wikipedia. E-kool, E-школа, E-school. A private company decided to create a platform for schools where a student, simply speaking, they wanted just to replace the log. So the presentation says that E-kool is a system of management of schools that unite home, school, and self-governance. I will explain how it works. First, when they entered the market, this was a platform where a teacher just put the date, the mark, and maybe some remarks concerning the work of the student, and students and parents were able to see those marks, remarks, and home tasks. But everyone understood that functionality should have been increased, and the company, private company that dealt with this issue, they promote themselves and position themselves as social network. If we enter E-kool system, modern system, we will see subject logs, assessments, also attendance, absentees, topics, home tasks. Every subject has its logs, and everything connected with the subject is in this log. So the teacher is able to fill in the information about presence and absence of students. So this is obligatory for use. Every thing starting the first grade, even 0 grade till 12th grade, we may see all the portfolio, all the decision of pedagogical boards, all the certificates, everything is archived and is in the system. There are also curricula, plans, and also the schools and the curriculum, they distribute the students in classes. Also, there are reports. You may get any reports through E-kool system, whether this is presence of students, the attendance or absence, and the marks, so the parents may check how their child studies. And the system provides all this information. Also, the system of assessment, scores, and formation assessment. So this is not only a grade, but also some remarks about the work. And what the student reached and what he should reach. Also, admission to school. So the school does not do this. The Department of Education does this through E-kool system. So through this system, the parents may confirm or reject the registration, and all this is done through the system. And this is accessible not only to the parents and students, but also to all stakeholders, state institutions that have proper access. All additional bodies also have access to this resource. Also, developmental charts and developmental talks. These charts should be filled in, and also these developmental talks, teachers should hold them twice a year, and in our school we do this. So a teacher of the class, a parent, and a student, they gather, they discuss what should be achieved during this year, and they fill in this developmental talk form at the start of the year and at the end of the year, and they discuss what was achieved or what was not achieved and why. Also, booking of resources. For example, if a teacher needs laptops, they may do it through the system. Also, there is a forum. So this is a messenger. We may send it through the group or personally. So this is done there. And also mobile applications for children and for the parents separately. They have their own roles. These are not all functions of E-kool. I cannot mention all of them. It takes a lot of time even to mention these functionalities. But not everything is so great. Not all schools use some functions, because some functions are done by the third parties, and I will tell you more about them. If we are speaking about our school, in our school, 50% of functionality of E-kool is used. We use 50%, and this is enough for us. Someone uses 100%, so each school decides how to work with the system. And I would gladly show the online presentation, go to the site and show how it all works. But unfortunately, in Europe and Estonia, there is, big responsibility for violation of protection of personal data. That's why I may show you only some pictures, how it looks for the teacher. For example, he goes through his login, and also there are some different functions he may use there. So this is the log, the journal, the register, and how it looks. You may see the lessons, the topic, the description of the lesson, and also you see, you cannot see the menu at the bottom, but there is a big functionality. So I only may show you how all this looks. So you may get any reports and print them out. Or you may also have such a function. For example, a student is ready to finish school, then this report will be sent by the system to the Department of Education. So before this, a person should do all this manually to write out all these marks, and now this is done through E-kool, and the certificate is printed after this. There are some problems, for example, problems with the servers. Servers are not able to sustain the load on some date. For example, when the semester ends or trimester ends, all teachers enter the service and there may be a collapse. So there are such problems even in our digitalized state. They say they're sorry because of this, but the problems appear once again. They try to do something, but they are not able to manage it sometimes. Also, raw mobile applications, they are lagging behind because children go to E-kool not through computers, but they go through mobile applications, and there are many problems. They are trying to resolve these problems, but they didn't reach the level they should reach. And also the policy of big functionality. We use only 50%. They believe they should have more functions, but this influences the functionality, and there are problems because of this in servers, because not so many functions are needed actually, and there is an overload because of such a big number of functions, and this influences the work of the server. So about COVID-19, we had the first student that got the virus on the 6th of March 2020. Then in a week, an emergency situation was introduced in Estonia. And on the 16th of March, the education was shifted online. First, September 2020, Estonia restored partly education offline. It was done partly. It wasn't done full-fledged because many children, some children, got ill and they were self-isolated, and also teachers were self-isolated because of this, or the whole classes were self-isolated. And always someone was ill, so there were some limitations. But there was offline education starting this. And starting 11th of March 2021, the lockdown was introduced, and online regime of work was established. So in a year, we returned to what we had 1 year ago. Now I would like to tell you more about what helped us to mitigate this strike of pandemic. I would like to start with the banal, but the main thing, about technical readiness of schools. And I would like to speak about our school. This is an ordinary school in Tallinn. So in each class room we have equipment, we have projectors. We watch a lot of internet programs, and teachers use them actively. We have Wi-Fi in any part of the school. Without any limitations, children may use it. We have 150 desktop computers, 110 notebooks, 60 tablets, 200 sets for technology studies, 100 small devices for distant learning classes. Before pandemic, we had, for example, some headsets, but after pandemic started, the city understood that teachers need web cameras, headphones, opportunities to hold distance lessons in any part of the school. Everything was financed through the budget, through local self-government and the European structural funds. A simple example. Laptops, for example, 30 laptops, they are bought and there is a label that they were bought due to European structural funds. So this is a great support, and I believe due to this we are able to work at such a level. And about lack of equipment for children. Tallinn administration allowed to provide all necessary equipment to students. We provided all laptops, tablets to children, and desktop computers with monitors, but this is limited because in Estonia on the first day an NGO appeared. This is called Computer to Every School Child. Two independent people organized NGO, and they became a link between big companies and students of our country. They submitted a request to all big firms. Big firms, they have some working equipment, some computers, in order to be provided to the school school students. And this is a big help. And many children got their computers through this NGO. And this NGO, they provided their functions to the Department of Protection of Children's Rights. They guide this aspect, and this NGO became a state project, let's say so. Also, what helped us to overcome this big crisis is the interest of the state in the development of IT in education. What it means is that the qualification of teachers is constantly increased. We have courses in different languages. The teacher may join any time and may improve his or her qualification, and this is incentivized. For example, a school will provide opportunities to teachers to improve their skills, and all these seminars, they are free for teachers, and they are financed due to the city or due to the European structural funds. Also, digital reporting of schools. Each second year, the schools send reports on the development of schools in the sphere of IT. I will show an example for you. This is a list of questions. We should answer all of them, and then we get assessment of the school. So this assessment looks like this. There are sub-points, and we may see where we are. Each second year, we have reassessment of the characteristic of the school. Someone increases it, someone decreases it. It happens like this. And the Ministry of Education is responsible for this and demand the schools to undergo such a test. This is done also with support of pedagogical university that supports this program. And due to these reports, the state understands who need more support. And they study these reports and they then decide who needs the help of the state more. About European projects, we have a lot of them. The most important thing is to implement, because everything is paid for. The most important thing is a wish to do something. Also, digitalization of tests and exams. All tests should be done through computers. This will simplify the life of students. This is easier for students to do this through computers, and this decreases the load on those who check those tests. Everything is digitalized further and further. Exams are not passed online, but we will have it soon. And financing of IT activity. What I mean here, as an example, Tallinn city at the end of the academic year collects the projects for financing of circles of interest for the new year. And if your project is connected with IT, it will surely get financing. They had more chances than the standard subjects not connected with IT. So in this way, IT is financed well. And if you write a project, you will be able to get funding for the implementation of the project. Please try to sum up, because we are now will have Q&A session. We're going to have Q&A session. Google also proposed their opportunities, as well as Microsoft. In Estonia, in this sector, everything functions. Okay, so we believe that Ukraine should also join this activity. This will simplify the matters. Also, additional services. There should be 2 people connected with IT in school. There's a system administrator and educational technologist. They introduce educational platforms in the system of school education. What else helps us? We have information studies, robotics and media. They have subjects like this: computer science, robotics and media, 3D modeling, and so on. And additional financing of circles of interest. They are well financed. It is easy to get financing for them. We face many problems, the same problems as you face in Ukraine. The main problem we have, there are opportunities for online lessons, but teachers lack skills. concerning the work online, and we face such a problem, and also burnout of teachers. Teachers are trying to get new skills, and there is professional burnout because of this. And also dropout children. Social services got involved, and the schools filed requests, and social services work with such children. Time is lacking to speak about more topics, and also about advice we may provide to Ukraine. I heard the speeches of the previous speakers. They spoke about opportunities that they have and that they will have. But sometimes we forget that in order to implement all this in schools, there should be a person inside the school, a person who will be able to help teachers. Often it is forgotten, and some people believe that this is not important, but you should go to Google GCU, the Microsoft Office 365, and this is for free for educational institutions, and you do not need funding for this. Thank you very much for your speech. Stay with us, please. Maybe our audience will have some questions to you. So now we have 10 minutes for Q&A session. Please be brief. Please raise your hands, introduce yourself, and tell to whom you ask your question. Who do you ask? Good afternoon. Maybe I will speak Russian. The question to Georgy and to our speakers. In Ukraine, Ukrainian Center for Assessment of Quality of Education, such an institution was created in Ukraine. Do you have the same institution in your country? And what are the results of the work of this institution? And what is the end goal of such an institution? Because we cannot understand this properly. Do you have... So this is the Department of Assessment of Quality of Education. Yuriy is going to comment. I will speak Russian in order that Georgy understand. So Ukrainian Center for Assessment of Quality of Education, it appeared a long time ago, and the main task of the center, speaking briefly, this is the external independent assessment of knowledge of students after they finished school. The legislation provides that in the future this will cover basic education, and it will be done after 9th grade. So the center carries out independent assessment. This is the system that provides external independent assessment. And in Estonia, they also have this body. So, yeah, we have a Department of Education and Youth, and they check schools concerning correspondence to curricula, and this department deals not only with IT, but also with the educational matters. And about the year of quarantine, how it influenced the quality of education. I know from the media and everyone else says that the quality of education will fall. Maybe we will feel this in the future. But we've managed to do all this. We assess it as 4 score. We didn't have any panic. We really worked hard before pandemic in order to manage. And what about our situation, whether we've managed? Dear colleagues, distance learning in our conditions, if we are speaking globally, this is not a means to improve the quality of education. Of course, children should attend school. Speaking simply, they should go to school. And Yuriy said about junior school, it is really difficult to provide distance learning there. And this distance learning and mixed learning, they will help to get knowledge and to get competences. This is for sure. After pandemic, education will not be the same as it was before pandemic. We will use more technologies than we did before. And I agree with my colleague. This negative impact of pandemic will have long-term effect. I support this idea. Larissa Tehat, I have a question to Yuriy. Your colleague from Estonia said that Tallinn city allowed to provide all necessary equipment to students, to provide notebooks, proper resources to students. You said that here, especially in rural areas, some families do not have notebooks, or they have one for everyone in their family, in multi-children families. So in our country, some equipment was provided to teachers, but what about students? Because children should have opportunity to hear the comments of teachers, the advice online. What was done to provide for the students? Do you want me to say that nothing was done? But I won't say this. Any self-government bodies, you may address this question to Cherkasy administration or to territorial communities administration. And unfortunately, as of today, in Ukraine, we are not at the stage where we could say that these issues will be resolved for the citizens in the targeted way. There are families that are in difficult life conditions, and such family get material help, and they may use it in order to buy something, including equipment. Unfortunately, I do not know about the programs like this that are introduced by local self-government bodies, but I believe that this is our nearest future. When we survive this economic crisis and when we develop, we will reach this. The first step is what I've said. For the first time in budget 2021, the issues will be resolved to help teachers. But this is done for the first time, so there is some step ahead. And what about the help from the big companies? So there is state and private partnership. There is some development, but we may not say that business does some serious steps in this. Unfortunately, this is only about big international companies such as Google, Microsoft. When they propose their products in accordance with memorandum and the policy they promote. About our business, we have nothing to be proud of concerning this. And who controls quality of provision of education? Some teachers, they really use these online opportunities, and others, they just provide some tasks. Who controls quality of education? We have a lot of controllers. The other thing, the quality of this control. So the principal of the school is responsible for the whole process of education, for the teachers, children. This is all within the responsibility of the principal of the school, and he should organize the process in accordance with the state standards and curriculum. So this is done inside the school. Maybe you know about it, and Yuriy mentioned this institution several times today. We have State Service of Quality of Education. This is former state inspection of educational institutions that was transformed, that created regional departments, and it should assess the activity of schools and the founder of the school independently. This is very important for Ukraine because before, for example, Cherkasy city administration, there was Department of Education, and they should have provided the quality and the check of the quality. And in accordance with legislation that was introduced in 2018, these responsibilities were separated. Also, we have a powerful instrument. This instrument is the address from the public. We have letters from people for example, that teachers only provide some tasks through Vibers, and that's all. A question to Yuriy Rybachuk about electronic platform, all Ukrainian school online. About the popularization of this platform, what are you planning to do? Maybe some social advertisement of this platform. Thank you for your question. At the official start in December, we launched a communication campaign. If you enter the site of the Ministry of Education and Science, the first thing you see on the banner, this is the banner of our program. So we promote each other, and you may read this information in many news outlets dedicated to digital education. And Vadim Kononenko in Levy Bereg news outlet provided an article concerning digital competences of the teacher, that modern teacher should be able to work online. About social campaigning. We believe that there is enough information. There is a Facebook page of the project with many subscribers. And people know about this platform in Ukraine. Of course, we need further publicity. If you are able to help in this, to broaden the number of subscribers or other users, or to promote it in the teachers community, we will be really glad for your support. Daria Razhenkova, to Yuriy Kononenko. You've said that letters are sent to you concerning teachers who only send some tasks through Viber. How do you respond on this? And what motivational measures are used for the schools? Formally, the mechanism of response is done in accordance with legislation. So if it is from Cherkasy, then we send it to the Cherkasy city administration. This is the formal approach in accordance with legislation. And the other issue is the issue of overall pedagogical culture connected with many factors. Let's say it is connected with the qualifications, salaries of teachers, motivation of teacher. In 2 days, I should provide information about prevention of bullying from the side of the students against teachers. And the pedagogical worker, as it is mentioned in the law, he should be a normal person. In Cherkasy, Sokhamlinsky worked. Can you imagine bullying against teachers? The teachers won't do anything and send their tasks through Viber. So this is the task for pedagogical collectives. They should be enforced. There should be proper atmosphere. When we are speaking about Estonia, and at the end I will tell you several words about it, there is a whole system that allows the principal of the school to manage the collective properly. They have instruments for doing this. We will move in this direction. We should work, we should educate the teachers. I would like to add, for the first time, we hear about this topic, about the service of quality and monitoring I've mentioned. Based on the results of the last year, the majority of teachers at the start of pandemic, the most popular application for teachers was Viber. Second is Zoom for holding sessions to see one another, and Google Teams. Because of this new condition, many people do not know what to do, and people use instruments that they know. Of course, this is not enough to send some copied and scanned pages through the Viber. This is not efficient, but all Ukrainian school online platform, we have there the cabinet for the teacher. They may work with their students there to provide reporting, assessment, including information assessment. These conditions should be created, and at the end of 2020, at the beginning of 2021, the situation changed from what we had at the beginning of pandemic. Teachers, they started to use applications more actively. They improved their skills. I would like to ask about efficiency of online learning. There are pluses and minuses, and for 9th and 10th grades, the state final assessment was cancelled. But how can we assess this efficiency? We believe that with each step, this efficiency will increase. About the assessment, the attestation in the first form, this is just a test that is checked by the teacher. And the center of that assesses quality of education. It should hold independent external assessment and carry out monitoring and assessment. There are special examinations, surveys, and Ukraine participates in international teams and PISA assessment that allow to hold such assessments. So this ninth and fourth grade assessments, they were cancelled not to spread the virus further and to support children psychologically. And the final remarks from our speakers. Georgy, we would like to really thank you. I will speak Russian. Let let allow me to honor your people, our Estonian colleagues. We implemented a lot of projects with our Estonian colleagues. We hope that we will be able to continue our work in the future. We had the Ukrainian teachers in many schools of Tallinn, and I really like Tallinn. I visited each year twice, and we wish you further development. Our colleagues, especially from the Ministry of Digitalization, they follow the steps of Estonia concerning digitalization and introduction of digital technologies. And we thank you for this very much. We thank all of you. Unfortunately, the journalists, they have tough schedules, and the speakers will be able to provide answers to your questions individually. In the course of our events, I was informed that in Kiev, lockdown will continue for 3 weeks. So we should digitalize and get accustomed to the new conditions of our life. So we should work further. Thank you very much for your attention and have a nice day.